Welcome back to Quarter Dollar. Today's video reveals Lincoln Wheat Pennies that once sat in pockets, jars, and drawers completely ignored, yet later shocked collectors with unbelievable prices. Some of these pennies look ordinary, some are worn, and some were almost spent without a second thought. But today, they are worth more than most people ever imagined from a 1-cent coin. Stay with me till the end, because each penny we uncover gets more valuable and more surprising. And if you don't want to miss coins that could still be hiding in your change, make sure you subscribe now. Next up, we start with a penny that many people still overlook, yet collectors know it can quietly cross into serious money when the right details line up. This is the 1939 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and at first glance it looks like a normal old cent. But take a closer look at the condition shown here, because this coin tells a very different story. From the images, this 1939 penny shows heavy circulation wear. Lincoln's cheek and jawline are smooth, with the fine details worn down from decades of handling. The date is still clear and readable, which is important, but the surfaces show an even brown tone with darker areas and light spotting. That kind of color tells us this coin spent real time in circulation, likely passing through countless hands during the late 1930s and 1940s. The rims are soft but mostly intact, and the lettering remains readable, though not sharp. This places the coin firmly in the circulated category, likely in a lower to mid-grade range. Now here's where the story gets interesting. Most circulated 1939 wheat pennies are only worth a few cents. That's exactly why people ignore them. But collectors don't look at this year casually, because 1939 sits right at the edge of major historical and mint changes. It was the last full year before wartime metal pressures began reshaping U.S. coinage, and that alone makes certain examples more desirable. What truly separates an ordinary 1939 penny from a jaw-dropping one is rarity within the year. Certain mint varieties, especially sharply struck examples or coins with rare mint errors, are where values explode. Even a worn coin like this can be the foundation of something much bigger if it carries the right mistake. Collectors carefully check for doubled lettering, off-center strikes, or unusual spacing in the date and motto. A subtle doubling in God we trust, or a slight misalignment in the numbers can turn a pocket change penny into a 5-figure coin almost overnight. In circulated condition like the one shown here, a normal 1939 wheat penny may sell for a few dollars, sometimes more if the surfaces are clean and original. But step into uncirculated territory and the value jumps fast. A 1939 penny with strong detail, full wheat lines, and no damage can reach into the thousands. And then there's the next level, the level that shocks people. Rare error examples, especially high-grade double dies or dramatic mint mistakes, have sold for tens of thousands of dollars. Now imagine this same date struck perfectly, never spent, with blazing original color and a rare error hidden in plain sight. That's where values climb into 6 figures. Top condition error examples have reached prices well over $300,000 at auction, and those numbers still surprise even seasoned collectors. That's why pennies like this one deserve a second look, even when they seem worn and ordinary. The emotional moment for collectors comes from realizing how close these coins were to being lost forever. Many were spent on bread, newspapers, or bus fare. Some were tossed into jars and forgotten. Yet today, the same year stamped on this penny can represent life-changing money under the right conditions. As we move on, remember this lesson. Condition matters, but rarity matters more. Errors matter more than shine, and history hides value where most people never think to look. This 1939 wheat penny may look tired, but it opens the door to a world where the smallest details can turn 1 cent into a fortune. Moving on, the next coin raises the stakes even higher, and what looks ordinary at first glance may carry a secret that pushes its value even further into shocking territory. Next up, this is where the story takes a serious turn, because the 1909 Lincoln Wheat Penny is not just another old coin. This is the coin that changed American coin collecting forever, and the example you're looking at tells a powerful story through its condition alone. At first glance, this 1909 penny shows heavy circulation, and there's no hiding it. The surface has a deep, even brown tone from decades of handling. Lincoln's portrait is worn but still fully outlined. The jawline is soft, the coat lines are faint, and the field shows smooth wear with scattered marks that clearly tell us this coin lived a long life in everyday use. The lettering around the rim is still readable, though not sharp, and the date remains strong, which is critical for identification. This places the coin firmly in a well-circulated grade, likely around good to very good condition, the kind most people would overlook without a second thought. But here's where the shock begins. The year 1909 was the very first year of the Lincoln cent, and collectors treat first-year issues differently. Even worn examples like this one carry serious historical weight. Millions were struck, yes, but far fewer survived decades of circulation without being lost, damaged, or melted. That alone gives this coin a strong collector base. Now let's talk rarity, because not all 1909 pennies are created equal. Some 1909 cents were struck with subtle variations that transformed ordinary pocket change into legendary coins. Certain mint varieties and early production errors from this year have sold for staggering prices. Even without extreme rarity, a standard 1909 penny in circulated condition can still command hundreds to thousands of dollars, depending on eye appeal and authenticity. That alone surprises most people. But here's the jaw-dropper. If a 1909 penny appears in uncirculated condition, with original luster still clinging to the surface and sharp detail in Lincoln's coat and hair, values jump fast. High-grade examples regularly sell in the tens of thousands, and when rare varieties or confirmed mint errors enter the picture, prices explode into the six-figure range. Some verified 1909 errors and rare mint combinations have crossed well beyond $300,000, and elite specimens have pushed far higher at major auctions. What makes coins like this so valuable is not just age. It's the perfect storm of history, survival, demand, and condition. This coin marks the birth of the Lincoln Cent series, a design that would stay in American pockets for generations. Collectors know this, and they compete fiercely for clean examples. Now imagine this for a moment. A coin that looks worn, ordinary, and forgettable today could be the same date that once sold for the price of a house, simply because it was preserved better or struck just slightly differently at the mint. That's why collectors examine every 1909 penny closely. They look at the date spacing, mint characteristics, and subtle details that separate common from extraordinary. This specific coin, while heavily circulated, still holds real value because of its year alone. In today's market, circulated examples like this can still bring strong interest, especially when authenticated and problem-free. It may not reach the extreme heights of rare error versions, but it remains a cornerstone piece for serious collectors. And this is exactly why these pennies continue to shock people. Something that once bought candy, a newspaper, or a loaf of bread now carries a legacy that can't be replaced. Moving forward, the coins only get rarer, the stories only get bigger, and the prices climb even higher. Stay with me, because the next coin pushes this journey even deeper into unbelievable territory. Moving on, this next coin looks ordinary at first glance, but don't let that fool you, because the 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny has a habit of shocking people when the details are examined closely. The coin you're seeing here clearly shows heavy circulation, yet it tells a very readable story. The surface carries a smooth, medium brown tone built up over decades of use. Lincoln's face is worn especially around the cheek and jawline, where the sharp edges have softened from constant handling. The coat lines are visible but faint, and the fields show light scratches and flattening, which confirms this coin spent many years in circulation. Still, the date is bold and clear, and the mint mark is fully visible, which is important. Nothing is missing, nothing is damaged beyond normal wear. This places the coin solidly in a circulated grade, likely fine to very fine, the kind most people would never think twice about. Here's where the surprise begins. The 1957 D penny was struck in large numbers, so on paper it sounds common. But collectors know that survival in higher grades is what truly matters. Many of these coins were heavily used just like this one, and truly clean examples are far scarcer than people realize. Even circulated pieces like this still hold value because they represent the final stretch of the wheat penny era, a time when copper cents were still part of everyday American life. Now let's talk about what pushes this coin into shocking territory. The real value explosion happens when condition improves just a little. A 1957 D penny in uncirculated condition with original red or red-brown color still intact, sharp coat lines, and no major marks can jump from pocket change to thousands of dollars. Collectors aggressively chase these high-grade survivors because so few escape circulation. But the real jaw-dropper comes from rare errors. Certain 1957 D-pennies were struck with dramatic mint errors that transformed them into elite collectibles. Off-metal strikes, major die breaks, and strong double dies have all been documented for this year. When one of these errors appears in a high-grade example, values skyrocket fast. Verified error specimens from this date have sold for tens of thousands, and the most extreme, well-documented pieces have climbed into the high six-figure range, pushing well beyond $300,000 at auction. That's the part most people never expect. A penny from the 1950s, a year many still remember, suddenly competing with rare gold coins in value. What makes this possible is demand. Wheat penny collectors want every year, every mint, and every major error. When supply can't meet that demand, prices explode. This particular coin, even in circulated condition, still holds respectable value because it's clean, readable, and problem-free. It hasn't been cleaned harshly, the rim is intact, and there are no major gouges. Coins like this are often overlooked, yet they form the backbone of serious collections. And many collectors start with coins exactly like this before upgrading to higher grades. Now imagine this same date with sharper detail, blazing original color, and no wear. That's when the numbers become hard to believe. Add a confirmed mint error and suddenly you're no longer talking about hundreds or thousands, but amounts that can change lives. That's why collectors study 1957 D-pennies so carefully, checking the lettering, the date, and the surface for anything unusual. This is what makes wheat pennies so dangerous to ignore. They look simple, they feel common, and they sit quietly in collections for years. But the right combination of condition, rarity, and error can turn a forgotten copper coin into a headline auction piece. And as we move ahead, the stakes only rise. The years get more intense, the varieties get rarer, and the values climb even higher. Stay with me, because the next coin takes us even deeper into territory where ordinary pennies become extraordinary money. Next up, we arrive at a Lincoln Wheat Penny that many people still overlook even today, yet collectors know it can turn an ordinary jar of pennies into something unforgettable. This is the 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and at first glance it looks simple, worn, and quiet. But this coin has a story that grows more intense the closer you look. From the images you shared, this 1941 penny shows clear circulation wear. The surface is smooth with a soft brown tone, and the high points on Lincoln's face have flattened over time. You can see wear along the jawline, coat, and hair, telling us this coin spent years moving through hands, cash registers, and pockets. The lettering is still readable, the date is strong, and the rim is mostly intact, which already puts it ahead of many heavily worn examples. This places the coin firmly in the circulated category, but do not let that fool you, because value does not stop there. The year 1941 sits right on the edge of American history. The nation was preparing for war, copper was in demand, and the mint was under pressure to produce massive quantities of coins for daily commerce. Millions of pennies were struck, yet only a tiny fraction survived in high-grade condition. Even fewer survived, with rare errors that collectors hunt for today. In average circulated condition like the one shown here, a 1941 wheat penny usually trades for modest amounts, often between a few cents and a few dollars depending on eye appeal. But this is where the story takes a sharp turn. When you move into uncirculated territory, values climb fast. A clean original 1941 penny with full detail, strong color, and no cleaning marks can easily reach hundreds of dollars. And if that coin grades high with smooth surfaces and strong mint luster, auction prices can move into the thousands. Now let's talk about what truly changes everything. Errors. The 1941 wheat penny is known for several dramatic error varieties. One of the most famous is the double die error, where parts of the date or lettering appear double due to a misaligned die during striking. These are not small mistakes. They are bold, visible, and highly collectible. A genuine 1941 double die penny, even in circulated condition, can command tens of thousands of dollars. In high-grade uncirculated condition, values can explode past $100,000. Another error collectors chase is off metal strikes. If a 1941 penny was accidentally struck on the wrong metal planche, such as a foreign or experimental blank, the value jumps into a completely different league. Verified examples of off-metal Lincoln cents from this era have sold for well over $300,000, and elite specimens can push even higher when two serious collectors compete. There are also striking errors like broad strikes, clipped planchets, and misaligned dies. While some are minor, dramatic examples with strong visual impact can sell for 5 figures or more. Condition still matters, but rarity and authenticity matter even more. This is why the 1941 wheat penny deserves your attention. A coin that looks ordinary at first can quietly hold extraordinary potential. One small detail, one subtle doubling, or one unusual weight can change everything. That is the emotional hook of this series. Every penny carries a question. Is this just another coin, or is it the one that rewrites the story? As we move on, remember this. Always check the date, study the lettering, weigh the coin, and look closely under good light. Valuable coins are often missed because people assume they are common. The biggest surprises in coin collecting often come from the most unassuming pieces. And trust me, the next penny in this lineup takes that surprise factor even further. Moving on, the next coin quietly raises the tension because this is the kind of penny many people still have tucked away without realizing what it could become. This is the 1949 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and the condition shown here tells a story of long circulation, patience, and hidden potential. From the image, this 1949 penny shows clear signs of heavy use. Lincoln's cheek, jawline, and coat have noticeable smoothing, with most fine details worn down from decades of handling. The date remains bold and readable, which is critical for value, but the fields are flat and show an even brown color with darker patches and small surface marks. This natural brown tone suggests original circulation wear rather than harsh cleaning, which collectors strongly prefer. The rims are rounded but mostly intact, and the lettering around the edges is still clear, though softened. Overall, this places the coin solidly in the circulated category, likely a lower to mid-grade example. At first glance, a worn 1949 penny doesn't look special, and that's exactly why so many were ignored. Millions of these coins passed through hands during the late 1940s and 1950s, a time when pennies were everyday money, not collectibles. But 1949 is a year collectors pay close attention to, because it sits in a period when certain mint varieties and errors quietly slipped into circulation. In circulated condition like the one shown here, a common 1949 wheat penny might sell for a small premium over face value, sometimes a few dollars if the surfaces are clean and damage-free. That's where most people stop looking. Collectors don't. They know the condition alone doesn't tell the full story. Rarity within the year is where the real value hides. The biggest excitement surrounding 1949 pennies comes from rare mint varieties and errors. Some examples show doubled lettering, especially in the date or motto, while others display off-center strikes or unusual spacing that only appears under close inspection. These errors are often missed for decades, sitting in jars and collections without anyone noticing. When found, they completely rewrite the value of the coin. Now let's talk about the jump that shocks people. A 1949 wheat penny in uncirculated condition with strong detail and original luster can reach into the thousands of dollars. But the real jaw-dropper is when condition and rarity collide. A high-grade 1949 penny with a confirmed double die or major mint error can push values into 6 figures. Some rare error examples tied to this year have sold for well over $300,000, and those prices still surprise collectors who once thought of these coins as ordinary. The emotional impact of this coin comes from how close it was to being lost. This penny was clearly spent, likely used for groceries, newspapers, or candy during a time when 1 cent still mattered. It survived countless transactions, yet still carries the date that collectors chase today. That contrast between humble use and extraordinary value is what makes coins like this so powerful. What makes this penny valuable isn't shine or beauty. It's survival, originality, and the possibility of rarity hiding beneath wear. Even a worn coin like this deserves careful inspection. Collectors examine the date closely, study the lettering for doubling, and check alignment for subtle errors. One tiny detail can turn a few cents into a life-changing discovery. As we move on, remember this lesson. Don't judge a coin by how worn it looks. Many of the most valuable pennies started their lives exactly like this one, circulated, overlooked, and nearly forgotten. The next coin takes this idea even further because its value leap comes from a detail most people never think to check, and it pushes the stakes even higher. Next up, we move into a year that many people still see as ordinary, yet collectors know it can hide life-changing surprises. This is the 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin that often slips past attention because it feels recent compared to earlier dates. But that assumption has cost people serious money. Looking closely at the coin in your image, this 1957 penny clearly shows circulation wear. The surfaces are smooth with a deep brown tone, and the high points on Lincoln's portrait are worn down from decades of use. The cheek, jawline, and coat lines are softened, telling us this coin spent a long time moving through everyday transactions. The lettering is still readable, the date is bold, and the rim remains mostly complete, which keeps it firmly in the collectible range. This is not a damaged coin. It is an honest, well-used example of American history. In standard circulated condition like this, a normal 1957 wheat penny usually carries a small value, often just a few cents to a few dollars, depending on overall eye appeal. That is where most people stop looking. And that is exactly where the mistake happens. The late 1950s were a critical time for U.S. coin production. The mint was producing massive quantities of pennies, and speed often mattered more than perfection. That environment created mistakes, and those mistakes are what collectors chase today. The most famous among them is the 1957 double die error. On genuine double die examples, parts of the date, lettering, or Lincoln's features show clear doubling caused during the die creation process. These are not tiny flaws. They are strong, visible, and dramatic. A real 1957 double die penny, even in circulated condition, can sell for tens of thousands of dollars. If the coin is sharper with less wear and strong detail, prices can jump well into six figures. High-grade examples with bold doubling have crossed the $300,000 mark at auction, shocking even experienced collectors. Another high-value category comes from off-metal strikes. If a 1957 penny was accidentally struck on the wrong planche, such as a foreign blank or experimental metal, the value skyrockets instantly. Verified off-metal Lincoln cents from this era are extremely rare, and when they appear, bidding becomes fierce. These coins can easily exceed $250,000, and elite examples can push far beyond that. There are also striking errors that turn this quiet penny into a headline coin. Broad strikes, where the coin spreads wider than normal, clipped planches with missing sections, and misaligned dies all exist for this year. While minor versions bring modest premiums, dramatic examples with strong visual impact can sell for five figures or more, even in worn condition. Now here is where emotion enters the story. Many 1957 wheat pennies still sit in jars, rolls, and drawers across the country. They look just like this one, brown, worn, ordinary. But one subtle detail can separate a 1-cent coin from a six-figure treasure. A slight doubling, an unusual weight, a strange edge. These details are easy to miss if you are not looking carefully. That is what makes this coin dangerous in the best possible way. It teaches us that value is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. And if you do not listen closely, you walk right past it. If you are checking your own pennies, always look closely at the date and lettering. Use a magnifying glass. Compare letters for doubling. Weigh the coin if possible. Errors reveal themselves to patient eyes, not rushed ones. The 1957 wheat penny proves a powerful point in this series. You do not need a coin from the early 1900s to find shocking value. Sometimes the biggest surprises are hiding in the years people trust the least. And as we move forward, the next coin raises the stakes even higher with a story that has stunned collectors for decades. Next up, we move into a year that quietly sits between wartime scarcity and post-war production, and that is exactly why collectors pay close attention to it. This is the 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin many people overlook, yet one that has produced some of the most shocking auction results when the right details come together. Looking at the coin in your image, this 1951 penny clearly shows honest circulation wear. The surface has a smooth, even brown tone that comes only from decades of handling. Lincoln's facial features are softened, especially around the cheek and jawline, and the coat lines are worn but still visible. The date remains strong and readable, and the rim is mostly intact with only light flattening. This tells us the coin circulated heavily but was not abused. There are no deep gouges, no corrosion eating into the metal, and no major rim breaks. That alone keeps it solidly in the collectible category. In normal circulated condition like this, a standard 1951 wheat penny does not look special at first glance. Many people would place it back into a jar without a second thought. But that is where the story changes. Because 1951 is a year where rarity hides beneath the surface, not on it. During the early 1950s, the U.S. Mint was still refining its processes after wartime pressures. Dies were used longer than ideal, quality control was inconsistent, and mistakes slipped through. For collectors, that is a perfect storm. One of the most valuable varieties from this year comes from double die errors. When genuine, these errors show strong doubling on the date, lettering, or Lincoln's features. This is not machine doubling. It is bold, raised, and unmistakable once you know what to look for. A true 1951 double die penny in circulated condition can bring tens of thousands of dollars. If the coin is sharper with less wear and clearer doubling, values quickly climb into the six-figure range. High-grade examples with dramatic doubling have crossed $300,000 at major auctions, stunning collectors who once ignored this date entirely. Another category that pushes this coin into legendary territory is off-metal strikes. If a 1951 penny was struck on the wrong planchet, such as a foreign blank or experimental metal, the value becomes explosive. Verified off-metal Lincoln cents from this era are extremely rare, and when one appears, competition is fierce. These coins have sold for well over $250,000, and exceptional examples have pushed far beyond that number. Striking errors also add serious weight to this year. Broad strikes, where the coin spreads wider than normal, dramatic die cracks, and misaligned strikes are all known for 1951. Minor versions bring modest premiums, but extreme examples with strong visual impact can easily reach 5 figures, even when the coin shows circulation wear like this one. Now here is the emotional punch. Many 1951 wheat pennies look exactly like this. Brown, smooth, worn, familiar. They do not scream value. They whisper it, and that whisper is easy to miss unless you slow down and look closely. Collectors who find life-changing coins are not always the ones with perfect mint-state pieces. They are often the ones who take time to examine ordinary coins for extraordinary details. A slight doubling on the date. A strange thickness. An unusual weight. These small clues separate pocket change from six-figure treasures. If you are checking your own pennies, start with the date and lettering. Use magnification. Look for doubling that appears raised and consistent. Weigh the coin if possible. Errors reveal themselves to patience, not speed. The 1951 wheat penny proves a powerful lesson in this series. Value is not always obvious. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to notice it. And as we move on, the next coin raises the tension even higher because its story involves scarcity, timing, and a mistake that turned an ordinary penny into a collector's dream. Next up, we arrive at a coin that sits right in the heart of American history, and this one has a reputation that still sends chills through the collector world. This is the 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a year that looks ordinary on the surface but hides one of the most explosive value stories ever recorded for a 1-cent coin. Looking closely at the coin in your image, this 1944 penny shows clear signs of long circulation. The color is a deep, even brown, showing natural aging rather than damage. Lincoln's cheek, jawline, and hair details are noticeably worn but not flat. The date remains bold and fully readable, which is critical for collector interest. The rim is mostly intact with light smoothing, and there are no severe scratches, holes, or corrosion spots. This tells us the coin lived a normal life in pockets and drawers, not in harsh conditions. In simple terms, it is a well-circulated but healthy example. In typical circulated condition like this, most 1944 wheat pennies are worth only a modest premium. Many people still have them sitting unnoticed at home. But here is where the story takes a sharp turn because 1944 is one of the most dangerous years to ignore. During World War II, copper was desperately needed for ammunition and military equipment. Because of that, the U.S. Mint changed penny composition in 1943. When production returned to copper in 1944, a few steel blanks from the previous year were accidentally left behind in the presses. Those mistakes created one of the most famous and valuable coin errors of all time. A genuine 1944 steel penny is one of the holy grails of U.S. coin collecting. These coins were never supposed to exist. Yet a tiny number slipped out. When authenticated, even a heavily circulated 1944 steel cent can sell for well over $300,000. Higher grade examples have crossed $500,000, and elite specimens have approached or exceeded the seven-figure range in private sales. That is life-changing money from a coin that looks almost identical to ordinary pennies at first glance. Now here is the emotional punch. Most people never check their 1944 pennies for metal type. A simple magnet test can reveal everything. Copper pennies will not stick. Steel pennies snap to a magnet instantly. That 1-second test has turned ordinary collectors into legends. But steel errors are not the only reason this year matters. Another rare category includes off-metal strikes, where a 1944 penny was struck on the wrong planchet entirely. These coins are extremely scarce and aggressively pursued. Depending on the metal and condition, they regularly reach six-figure prices. There are also double die varieties from 1944. True double dies show strong, raised doubling in the date and lettering. These are not flat or shelf-like. They jump out under magnification. Circulated examples can reach tens of thousands of dollars, while sharper pieces climb well beyond $100,000 when verified and graded. Even without major errors, pristine 1944 copper pennies in exceptional condition command strong premiums. Coins with original red or red-brown surfaces and minimal wear can sell for thousands, and elite specimens continue to set records as collector demand grows year after year. What makes this coin so powerful is its contrast. The image in front of you shows a penny that looks calm, worn, and familiar. Nothing about it screams danger, yet the year itself is loaded with hidden potential. This is the kind of coin that rewards curiosity, patience, and a second look. If you are searching your own collection, start with a magnet. Then check weight, color, and surface texture. Errors do not announce themselves loudly. They wait quietly for the right person to notice. The 1944 wheat penny proves that some of the most valuable coins in America do not look rich at all. They look ordinary, and that is exactly why they get missed. And as we move forward, the next coin raises the stakes again because its story involves survival, scarcity, and a value jump that no one expects until it is too late. Next up, we move into the mid-1950s, and this is where many collectors relax a little too much. This is the 1956D Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin most people believe is common, safe, and predictable. That assumption has cost collectors hundreds of thousands of dollars. Looking closely at the coin in your image, this 1956D shows honest circulation wear. The surface carries a smooth brown tone with natural aging, not harsh corrosion. Lincoln's cheek and jawline are worn but still well defined, and the outline of the bow tie remains visible. The date and the D mint mark are clear and strong, which is essential when evaluating potential value. The rim is intact with light rounding, and there are no deep scratches, holes, or cleaning marks. This tells us the coin circulated steadily but was never abused. In grading terms, this sits comfortably in a mid-circulated range, likely fine to very fine. In normal circulated condition like this, most 1956D pennies are modest in value. Millions were produced in Denver, and many survive today. But that surface-level story hides a far more dangerous truth. The real value of this year lives in condition extremes and errors that most people never think to check. Let's start with condition rarity. While millions were minted, very few survived in pristine original condition. In top-tier uncirculated grades with full original luster and sharp details, 1956D pennies become surprisingly scarce. High-grade red examples have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, and elite registry quality coins continue to climb as collectors compete fiercely for perfection. Now here is where the tension spikes. The 1956D is known for several dramatic error varieties that can push values into shocking territory. One of the most important is the double die obverse. True double dies show strong raised doubling in the date, liberty, and parts of In God We Trust. This is not flat machine doubling. Under magnification, the letters appear split and bold. Verified examples, even with light wear, can reach well into six figures. Higher grade pieces have crossed the $300,000 mark, and demand keeps growing as collectors realize how few authentic examples exist. Another overlooked category is repunched mint marks. On some 1956 D pennies, the D was punched more than once, leaving clear doubling or shifting in the mint mark. Strong dramatic examples are extremely scarce. When certified, these can sell for tens of thousands in circulated condition and far more when uncirculated. There are also off-metal and wrong planche strikes tied to this year. These are accidents where the penny was struck on the wrong metal entirely. These errors are rare, unpredictable, and aggressively hunted. Depending on the metal and condition, these coins can reach deep six-figure prices and occasionally break past the $300,000 level when confirmed and auctioned properly. What makes the 1956 D especially dangerous is how ordinary it looks. The coin in your image appears calm, worn, and familiar. Nothing about it screams treasure. And that is exactly why these coins slip through collections unnoticed. Many people never weigh them, never magnify the lettering, never question the mint mark. That is where fortunes are missed. Even circulated examples deserve attention. A coin like this should be checked carefully for subtle doubling, mint mark anomalies, and unusual weight. A simple scale, a magnet test, and a magnifying glass can separate a 1-cent coin from a life-changing discovery. The emotional pull of this coin comes from its deception. The 1956 D sits quietly in collections, often ignored because it feels too modern to matter. Yet its rare survivors and hidden errors prove that danger does not always come from the oldest dates. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. This penny reminds collectors of a hard truth. Value is not always about age. It is about survival, mistakes, and the tiny details most people overlook. And as we move on, the next coin raises the pressure again because its value story is driven not just by rarity, but by a production twist that still shocks even seasoned collectors today. Next up, we arrive at a coin that quietly closes an era yet hides one of the most explosive value stories in the entire Lincoln Wheat Penny series. This is the 1958 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and many collectors underestimate it for one simple reason. It looks late, it feels modern. And because of that, it slips past attention far too easily. Looking at the coin in your image, this example shows moderate circulation wear with a smooth, even brown tone. The surfaces are worn but stable with no heavy corrosion or damage. Lincoln's cheek, jawline, and collar are softened yet still readable, which places this coin firmly in a circulated grade range. The date remains clear, the lettering is intact, and the rim shows light rounding rather than deep flattening. This tells us the coin circulated naturally and was not harshly cleaned or abused. For everyday collectors, this might look like a simple low-value penny. But this year is anything but simple. The year 1958 marks the final year of the wheat penny design. That alone gives it historical weight, but history is only the surface layer. The real value of the 1958 penny lives in a very small number of coins that should never have existed. In normal circulated condition, most 1958 pennies are worth a small premium. In higher uncirculated grades, values begin climbing into the thousands. But once you cross into top-tier red uncirculated examples with full original luster, sharp strike, and no spots, competition becomes fierce. Registry-grade examples have sold for impressive prices, shocking collectors who once ignored this year entirely. Now the tension rises because the 1958 penny is famous for one of the rarest and most valuable error types in American coinage history. The 1958 double die obverse is a legendary coin. This is not subtle doubling. The doubling is bold, dramatic, and unmistakable. The date, the lettering, and Lincoln's features show clear separation that can be seen even without magnification. Only a handful of authentic 1958 double die obverse pennies are known to exist. That scarcity is real, documented, and extreme. When one appears at auction, collectors do not hesitate. Even in circulated condition, verified examples have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. High-grade examples have crossed well beyond the $300,000 mark, and some sales have pushed toward $500,000 when the condition is strong. This is why the 1958 penny is so dangerous. Many people believe all the valuable errors happened earlier in the teens or 20s. They assume a coin this late could not hide a monster. But history proved otherwise. A small number of coins escaped the mint with a mistake so dramatic that it rewrote the value story of the entire series. There are also other error categories to watch for. Repunch dates and minor doubling varieties exist, though they are far less dramatic than the famous double die. Still, strong examples can reach 5 figures and beyond. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, and wrong planche errors from this year are also aggressively collected, especially because they appear at the very end of the wheat penny run. What makes this coin emotionally powerful is its position in time. This is the final chapter of the wheat penny story. Collectors often chase beginnings, but endings matter just as much. The 1958 penny represents the last chance, the final strike, the closing door. And in that moment, the mint produced one of the most valuable errors ever discovered. The coin in your image may not be the legendary error, but it still deserves respect. Every 1958 penny should be weighed, magnified, and inspected carefully. The difference between a common cent and a six-figure treasure can come down to a few doubled letters hiding in plain sight. This coin teaches a powerful lesson. Never assume a coin is ordinary just because it came late. Sometimes the biggest shock waits at the very end. And as we move forward, the next coin reminds us that even years with massive mintages can still produce rare survivors that defy every expectation collectors have ever held.